order. All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, so we take the consent agenda, item number 1, and move it to an action item instead of a consent item.
I would rather pull that item for the time being until we have another personnel meeting, because there's some information that was presented to us last personnel meeting has changed.
Okay.
So
So
remove it, it's your.
Take it off altogether.
take it off altogether and have another meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
Table it to the committee. Don't have to have.
Yeah.
Anything else off of that? Talked about?
And with that, I approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any more discussion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's carries. Work group session, May 17th, 22. Move to approve.
Second.
With a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries. Public comment. Chris, no?
6:08.
I think Chris Smith is with the presentation, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, Chris Smith is for the presentation. How about, who's the number was 608-769-9200? Can you state your name, please, for the record?
That's Mark Inglet.
Oh, Mark. Okay, Mark. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, could I interrupt just one moment? I got entered into the meeting about 9:01 there, and so I missed what got pulled from the consent agenda. Was that anything to do with the sheriff's office?
No,
No.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Should we go to that appointment? Is he here? We could just go-
Looks like he's
Did you
here.
want me to go ahead and talk, or?
Yes. Yes, you can go ahead.
Oh, good morning. My name is Chris Smith. I'm working with Bob Golnick with the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission. And today I'd like to answer any questions that you have reference the initiative that they've put forward, and that is to create a federally recognized port statistical area. So I just have, in essence, one slide that I'll show, and that's the slide itself of here's the initiative that's ongoing right now, and there was a letter of intent that was submitted by the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission to the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers, specifically to the Waterborne Commerce Statistics Center. And the request was to form a port statistical area for the sole purpose of the consolidation of data that is already being collected on the area that we've that's highlighted here, and to attribute it to the Northern Greenbelt Port Statistical Area. So to date, what we have is there's 11 counties that have all voiced or that are part of the application itself. And to date, there's 3 counties that have already submitted and put forward to the board for approving the resolution. The process started with the the La Crosse Joint Harbor Port Commission voting on a resolution to support the initiative. This was followed also by the commissioners from the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission voicing interest to move forward with this process. And so to date, we've had the ones with the check marks are the ones that have the resolutions that have been passed. So the problem that was identified was that there's the only port listed is a urban port, which is the St. Paul, Minneapolis-St. Paul port. There's a stretch of the water that does not have a port identified with it. With the port comes the identification of, or the association of tonnage, and the tonnage helps the region with a ranking as it relates to how much economic, attributing the tonnage to economic value that's being afforded to the region. And we know that there's a lot of tonnage that is passing through this region. In the slide deck, there was some information or some data that was put forward. And in Lock and Dam 10, in essence, there's 16 million tons that flow through the Lock and Dam. St. Paul, the port of St. Paul itself has roughly 4.8 million tons of product, of goods that flow through from their port. So there's some tonnage that's being reported, but it's not being attributed. And so our goal with Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission is to put forward an application that requests approval based on the stated interest of all of the counties depicted on the slide that wish to be part of this port statistical area. And once that happens, the view is that at a federal level, there's federal funding now that's being able to be attributed and earmarked, or not earmarked, but put up against a port statistical area. So I think also in the slide deck, there's some information pertaining to other similar port statistical areas that have been put forward and down south of your location. Now, I'll stop there. And what questions do you have of me?
Is this strictly for the river traffic and cargo that's hauled in the river? This has nothing to do with the shoreland or land usage along the river?
No, what this does is currently there's a federal requirement for carriers to report tonnage.
Yep.
So the carriers are reporting the tonnage. It's being consolidated right now, or has been for quite some time with the Waterborne Commerce Statistics Center. The only thing this will do, this port statistical area, will allow the attributing of the tonnage to this region.
Okay.
So it's really a huge benefit for the region. But there are no other, the resolution talks to what is to be put forward, and there are no other organizations, entities created. The county can pull out at any time. We haven't seen that happen yet in the other port statistical areas. It's just, so anyway, I think that answers the question.
And there's no financial ties to it as far as expenses for the county?
No, there are none.
Okay.
Just from my understanding, where's Lock and Dam 10?
Right down, I think you can see my mouse. It's just south of Crawford, right across from Clayton and Grant.
So the only one that is considered a port is the St. Paul then, in that whole stretch.
Yes. Yeah, currently at the federal level, there's a shadow zone. We just call it the black hole. This region right here has no port associated with port statistical area associated to it. So what this does, it fixes that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. This area right
Yep.
here was just put in place.
Yep.
This area is what we're talking about. I'm sorry about that. This is that shadow zone right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we go. Slide management. So that's the area we're talking about. So it's, did I answer that question?
Yep, thank you.
So Lacrosse, Waukesha, and Trempealeau counties have approved it?
Yes, they have. Winona, the Harbor Commission is voting on it, I believe, on the 9th. And then on the 28th is when Winona will be taking that up for vote.
Okay.
Does this information eventually assist some of these terminals of getting rebuilt or fixed or whatever, enlarging them or whatever it helps for our people to deliver their grain to?
With the recognition of the port statistical area at a federal level, it makes available federal funding. So it is our belief, so I think what you're be talking about is either grants or other type of federal, or it could be state funding too. So those, at that point in time, it becomes the grant application process or state funding. And the reason I say or state funding, Illinois, just as part of their investment strategy, invested in some local ports along the Illinois waterway and also on the upper Mississippi.
This is probably not in your area, but there's always been talk of updating the lock and dam system and enlarging them to take bigger tows. Would this kind of a deal with having the statistics to back it up help improve that possibility?
Our belief is yes, and here's why I say that. With the last, with the most recent investment, the infrastructure bill that just went through, lock and dam 2025 is going through. There was over 700 million that was recently invested in that. So it is our belief that yes, by having the federal recognition of a port statistical area, it does a couple of things. One, it allows for, as the investments are happening right now, for the investment or the infrastructure bill that's over a 5-year period. We believe that that this allows some investment to happen from that. And then there's the standard annual appropriations that happens with the Corps as part of their work plan. And there was an increased investment south along within the Corn Belt Ports region. And again, attributed for many different reasons, right? But we think an influencer and an enabler to that was the establishment of the Corn Belt ports. The other thing that we're trying to do, or the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission is trying to do, is timeline-wise, the the approval process happens on kind of the posting and publishing of the U.S. principal port list will happen in October, November timeframe. Prior to that, the federal agencies will have to go through their approval process to include the Waterborne Commerce Statistics Center, which actually does as part of the process. But they're going to need some time. So this whole the timeline that we're on, it is an ambitious one, and the reason for that is with the intent of trying to influence the decisions to be made in the August-September timeframe to allow the Northern Greenbelt Port statistical area to make it onto the U.S. principal port list, which will again happen October, November. That information then, that port list helps to influence at the federal level investment decisions.
Yep. I get it. That makes sense.
So when I read this, it says the Northern Grain Belt statistical or port statistical area has 34 terminals throughout its region. Is that just on that map, or where? I can't imagine 34 terminals along that stretch of the river. Is this the whole river?
That number sounds about right, and it's from this point all the way down on both sides of the river. That number sounds about right, but I think it's 34 in the 30s, but that sounds about right.
But the only ports that we're talking about in this northern one now, be like Winona and La Crosse and wherever they might have them on the way up the river. They're all existing ports, it's not new ones.
Yeah, and that's a great question. There are some ports that exist currently, and this does nothing to affect those ports. Those are state recognized ports. So those ports remain, they are part of, but this initiative does nothing to impact in a negative way the ports that currently exist, the state level ports. What this initiative is to allow a federal recognition of the 11 counties. So it's counties coming together to say that we wish to form this port statistical area for the sole purpose of the accounting of statistical data. So again, our view is that on the linear ports, it encompasses not only the state ports, but also the terminals to allow the product to make it from the rural areas into the terminals, which then get loaded onto the barges to make their way down or upriver. But yeah, so it's this acknowledges and appreciates the fact that there are terminals and also state ports that comprise and make up this region. And that's what makes it so unique.
Out of curiosity, by getting the federal designation, does that put more restrictions on the recreational use of the river? I mean, does that have a bearing on the usage of the river by other people besides commercial?
No, our view is that by gaining access to federal recognition helps to increase access to federal funding, which is just not on the navigational side. It's also supports the recreational, environmental. It supports. It opens up more federal investment into the region.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are any other questions, things I can answer?
No, I'm fine.
Good.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
What is your deadline?
Well, again, our goal is for the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission is to submit this right after the Winona votes on it. So it'd be 1 July. I mean, it's a self-imposed deadline based on an attempt to influence and be part of the U.S. principal port ranking, which again, we're hearing it could be October, November timeframe. So again, you just have to back off. So July is pushing it, but we think with the letter of intent already with them, they can start doing the initial research, legal review, things like that they need to do as part of this process. So as soon as the last county's vote is when the commission plans on submitting.
And when was Winona's vote going to be?
Well, their next, right now we're being told they will have it on the agenda 28 June. We're being told Pierce is also going to be on the agenda 28 June. All the other ones this is what we're tracking, what we've been told for. Still working with Pippin and Buffalo.
All right.
So I said we put it on June 7th. After hearing today.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you for clarifying.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
All right. Action items. Consider.
We didn't do a consent yet, did we?
No, not
No,
yet.
we just,
So we gotta approve that.
Yeah.
Someone wanna make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 1 pulled out.
second,
Motion in a second. To approve the consent agenda with number 1 pulled out. All in favor, say aye.
all right,
Opposed? Now we go to action items. Consider approving the Minnesota DOT Master Partnership Contract with resolution number 22-27. Brian?
Good.
Yes, so every 5 years, we get a updated master partnership agreement with MnDOT. What this allows is for MnDOT to provide services to the county and vice versa, the county provide services to MnDOT if they need anything from us. So this is kind of the template that has the more general, more generic type terms of the agreement. If there's anything that's substantial that requires work that one agency would do for the other, then there would be a more detailed agreement that would be above and beyond this one. So this is just kind of the master agreement. So when we have material testing or anything that we need to have MnDOT do on our behalf, we could send that stuff to MnDOT. They can do the work and bill us back for their time.
This is a kind of a standard every 5 years and it hasn't changed.
Standard agreement, language changes a little bit, but not real substantial. I reviewed it. I've had our accountant review it, and we've also had attorney on review it. So all of us have reviewed it. Haven't seen anything that draws a red flag to us.
To approve.
I'll second it.
In a second. To approve Master Partnership Contract. Favor say aye.
all right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Brian, as long as you got you here,
Yes.
Mooney Valley Bridge Road, I see you guys paved that yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know if that wasn't even part of your plan, but there's a cattle pass there at the beginning of that road. And it's straight down. is there, you guys got any used guardrail or something that they could put up there or?
I would have to check to see if we have any used guardrail. We might have a little bit left. We've been trying to use it what we've had.
I suppose
We've been
you-
using our own system. We don't really have a whole lot that we
Extra to,
have
for the
extra.
township?
We have been providing cattle passes to townships.
Not cattle pass, I'm talking
The
guardrail.
guardrail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, we've been providing cattle passes to townships if they
Right,
want to extend their cattle passes longer, it's that way they can find out.
well, this is an old stone one.
Okay, so.
So,
Oofed it.
It's not a regular cattle pass.
Okay. I would have to check. I'm guessing we don't have a whole lot that we
All
would
right,
want to part with.
I decided to ask it, because that's been brought up, and concerns about from the neighbors there that, you know, if for whatever reason you get off the pavement, I mean, you can go right over there, so, but I decided to ask you that.
So being an old stone one, there's no way you can extend, I
Probably.
mean,
Well,
with
you
the
could-
arch
You
concrete
could
ones.
pour something, I suppose, but
Yeah, sometimes you can, you can put an arch one up to it, or maybe even shove it aside depending on the size, and then you can ground it around and stuff. The problem with that is that if one or the other shifts or moves, you can actually start pulling the stone apart and making it worse. So,
Which road is this on?
it's the old Looney Valley Road. It's the road that goes off 9 to the Looney Valley Church, Hanson Valley Road, actually.
So is this actually a county issue or a township?
No, it's a township.
Okay. If we've got guardrail, we could make it safe that way.
Well, that's what I was asking. Second thing, the sand pole down there, you know, was brought up about painting that. Is it, you guys been doing some thinking about that, or you in the plans of doing something there?
yeah, so, after speaking with Attorney Ott and stuff.
Well, I'm not asking for what was requested. I'm saying on your own.
From the county, we can definitely consider it. It won't be that expensive to buy some paint to repaint it. I haven't looked at it for condition of the wood to see if it's worth it to paint it or not.
All right.
It's a sand pole in Houston.
Yeah.
Yes,
So what are we talking,
The shed there,
the shed on this?
the shed that on
the actual
What
pole
was
shed.
that?
the pole shed where they operate it. Yeah. It could use a little touch.
Wow. How old is it?
Yeah, and we've done a little bit on the inside to help with noise reduction, so we don't.
Yep.
A little better that way with the heater protection installation and stuff, but we haven't touched the outside of it.
Quite a while. Yeah, and it's been brought to my attention a few times. So something to put on your radar.
I can do that.
All right, thank you.
Do you, well, no, we'll wait until it comes to committee.
Yeah, you want me to stick around for that, or?
Any deal?
Yeah.
Can if you want. I was thinking more of Wildcat, but we'll wait until that committee meeting about it first.
Okay.
I don't think you gotta stick around very long.
All right, we'll go number 2, consider approving an interim use permit for a temporary asphalt plant in an agricultural protection district for Matthew Construction Company and a conditional use permit for an industrial use in the shoreland overlay district. Martin and Amelia.
What we've got is for Matthew's blacktop, one of the blacktop plants, there's 2 permits. The interim use permit was issued and then just recently, we just did the conditional use for the shoreland part of the same facility. So it's basically both of those, and I think the conditions. And so, but we didn't bring it with the initial one to you because we were anticipating the fact that as a result of the one, we may have to redo the other ones. So So these are the conditions that we're including with that is to match. So they're both matching up, is what it comes down to. And the conditions are basically matching up with the fact that they have existing MPCA permits, so the permits are the controlling mechanism for some of these things, as opposed to what we would have done with best management practices and that type of thing. So it's ultimately the discharge limits that control. So that's
So the conditional use permit will go with the land then after this, if it's approved, and then they don't have to do this anymore, just the interims. If they want to bring in a plant.
correct. Yep, exactly. The conditional use will be for the shoreline will be in perpetuity. So. Yep.
I guess my question is the shoreland thing is because of the stream going through there, the creek, the trout stream. Is that the-
Ultimately.
Otherwise, it's quite a ways from the river.
Right. It's.
Must be the
it's-
creek.
There's crooks, right.
Okay.
And there's a setback distance from it.
Very good.
What creek is that?
It's part of Crooked Creek.
See if
And
it reaches.
shoreline is actually a designation based on public waters, which is defined by the DNR. And so you get some of these upwater channels that aren't public waters, and then some of them are. This particular one is, and it's actually trout easement, conservation
Right.
easement as well.
Right.
So there's that concern.
That's important.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the parcel with all these conditions 1 through 6 being included in the conditional use permit.
Are we having two motions on this? Is
Right.
interim, so the conditional use is first?
Because that's permanent.
Yeah. Second?
And- Oh, as we've laid out in front of you, you're saying?
Yes.
The corrections with in bold.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second to okay the conditional use permit.
Who seconded it?
6
I did.
conditions.
Oh,
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now it's the interim.
So we gotta have a motion for interim.
make a motion, we approve the interim use permit for the bituminous plant with all 6 conditions.
One second.
One question. This says it's, the permanent expiration is December 31st of 22. Do we typically do an interim permit to the end of the year, or is it to the end of the time frame that they're going to use
They have identified that it'll only be 6 or 8 weeks, I think, that they'll need it, but
Right.
in other permits, it looked like we just put that the year is expiration date.
it? So.
That way it covers them if they have a weather event or
Some
some delay or, yeah.
Exactly.
But if they get more projects in the county, they can move a plant back in as long as it's gone by the 31st.
That's right.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you.
And then I guess this would be where we'd ask if you guys, so the 6 conditions as they're written in front of you are what the planning commission voted on prior to doing the conditional use permit hearing. But 3 would be one perhaps that we would look at changing to, or maybe recommend changing to match what was outlined in the conditional use permit as far as runoff being in accordance with MPCA discharge limits rather than just being contained within the existing 4th floor.
That's included in my motion.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Well said.
Motion. Second.
I'll second it. I
Okay.
thought you
I
did
did,
already.
I did.
Yeah.
Don't we-
Well, we're really slipping. Okay, we got a motion and a second to okay the interim use permit with the 6 conditions. The bottom 3, number 3 from the conditional use brought up to number 3 in the interim use permit. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're next.
It's just the standing ARPA thing, which we might not.
Everything that has come up, I don't
Yeah.
know if there was any, who did you talk to that was gonna send maybe an email?
Oh, that memorial.
Okay, okay. And then there was a mention about possibly something at Wildcat.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, it's probably something that I'm working on the spreadsheet, getting it to where the things that we've reported on that we've spent, because that was through March 31st, the things that we've spent through April, and then crossing our fingers that our second tranche comes within the next month, and then we can add that so we know what we do have left, and then all the projects that have been discussed.
But we have not spent more than our first trans as yet.
I don't believe so. Well, no, because we still have money
Right.
in the bank.
So we haven't spent county dollars.
We haven't spent our first half yet.
Right. With regard to ARPA and some of those things with water and safety and whatnot, is that something that we could use like for the townships to help out, like as an example, the cattle pass extension?
Well, the township's got money too. From ARPA, this ARPA deal too, but I don't know, I don't know.
Stretch?
I don't know if that's something we could pass down to the townships. I suppose we could, I don't know.
And it's, when I was doing the reporting, the things that we have, actually allocated money to, based on the reporting form, it didn't necessarily meet all of the requirements, or it was in two separate places. So it's really easiest, since we are allowed to just report it as lost revenue.
Yep.
And we are spending it to provide government services. So, of course, we probably want to keep in mind the health, the safety, the, water type stuff when we're looking at it, but that isn't necessarily the requirement. It's to provide government services. And if our service is to assist townships or to assist these places, then you can do that.
So that being said, that would be something we could consider.
You could look at it.
Could open a big can of worms as far as that's concerned.
No.
But
We have to give each one so much money, and that's the way we guys go. So we get
no,
something like
they'd each have to come with a presentation of what they need. Then you'd have to ask Brian if it's a worthy request.
A lot of places for guardrail, both township and the county systems.
But is guardrail the wisest thing, or in this particular case, we're straight down some kind of an extension so you can slope it so you don't.
Well, it'd have to be sloped, so it's for safety, so if you hit it, it'd have to be.
So the guardrail makes the most sense.
It would be, just that then people would notice there's something there. And if you do get off the road, it'll help
It'll
too.
keep you up there.
Yeah.
So after we get that put together and get a, second tranche of money, it would be the time to look at what you're thinking of for down the road. But there is, also plenty of time too.
Right.
But if township has ARPA monies available, maybe they could utilize theirs first before us.
Makes sense.
Which most
That would be
likely,
your option.
by now they maybe have, maybe not all of them, but.
I think some aren't sure what they are even gonna do with it, from what I heard, but
And are they like us where they just got half of it and then they get half now again? Or did they receive theirs?
that I don't know.
I'm not sure, and I think they got it
They
all.
had to actually,
They had theirs.
It was a different
Apply,
application,
apply,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a different application system this
Mhm.
time. They didn't.
Theirs was through the state.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. ours is
And they
through
got
the state.
considerably less.
well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
not as compared to us, yeah.
And then I don't know if some of them were really aware of the level or what they could apply for. Cause like Crooked Creek, when I looked at what they could get and what he said they got, there was a difference.
Yeah, I don't think some may have not requested the full amount that they could have, and I'm not sure why they.
Well,
And I think they had their specific projects that they were looking at, and that's what they applied for, and kind of left money on the table, so I don't know if they can go back, if they'll allow them to go back and get that money. Which you would think they would.
most of our townships are very frugal, conservative with their budgets, and yeah, they don't want to ask any more than they need. So
Well, I think Wilmington got 15 or 17 million dollars.
that's what Houston Township used it for, is rock, I think.
I think Sheldon, they put some money into the town hall. Somebody else.
They probably used their CARES money for that.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think
that's,
maybe that's maybe what they used.
you know,
The other person used on a bridge, I think, or a culvert, something. She was talking about Wildcat, I was talking with Brian. The workers down there said that dock is shot, the lower dock, we need to replace that. Would you say $5,000? Yeah, the lower dock.
Is that
The one that's in that,
It floats out
the
there.
one that's in the actual pier.
the pontoon?
Oh, you can explain that landing. Right,
Sure do.
Yes, we haven't talked to the Wildcat committee about either of these issues now, but two things that Wildcat have been brought up. One is the floating dock on the south end. We used to have that one up by the boat ramp. We moved that one down farther when we replaced the one by the boat ramp. It's 5 foot, 6 foot wide dock that has 4 poles. Stuff. When we replaced one by the boat ramp, that was done. At a cost of $5,000 to $6,000. So, on the stability of that dock down there, it's not in great shape. Haven't heard complaints about people that fall off of it or have major issues with it yet, but it's definitely aging out, and at some point we should look at replacing it. So, so when is the right time to replace it? I don't know if it's now or not. The other thing that was brought up down at Wildcat is dredging out the area by the south boat ramp that silts in with sediment over time. I've spoken with the Corps about that. There is no permits needed from the Corps. They look at that as maintenance. Sediment comes in, you clean it back out, you're able to use the ramp, and it goes back in again. Just got it. So, in order to do that, the width of it, where it outlets all that boat ramp area is 50 feet wide across the width of the water. If we tried to use our own equipment or if we hired a contractor that has a backhoe, they can't reach across the other half of that water opening without getting a special backhoe that has a long arm on it. The long arm backhoe has about a 60-foot reach. We could rent one of those, do it ourselves, but it's $2,000 per day for the backhoe usage.
Could you do it in a day?
I don't know if we could do it in a day, until we start digging to know exactly when sediment is in there. It very well could take 2 or 3 days. So I would estimate that it's going to probably be $4,000 for 2 days worth of work, potentially a third day in there, along with the cost of getting that backhoe from wherever it's at down here and back. We don't have a trailer that can haul it on, so we need to hire someone to truck it here. So don't know if there's one available in Rochester at the moment, or if it's going to be Rochester, or across here at the moment, Rochester, how long that trucking is. So it very well could be another, you know, 500 to $1,000 worth of trucking to get down here and then, you know, haul back weight when we're done with it. So I would estimate, you know, $5,000, potentially upwards of, you know, 8,000, be it that ramp thing down.
You can't use a backhoe on either side. It's only from the,
We can't get to the far side. There's some trees on it that I believe that it is narrower on the other side as well. We just can't get around on the other side. So even the point we'd be setting up on
The riverside.
yeah, that little peninsula on the north side of that ramp area, you know, that's a pretty small area to have a backhoe that size.
That's just used for the backhoe and all. You have to move the material someplace and that'd be involving some trucking.
And then we would truck it up and we truck it ourselves. I've asked the court, can we truck it to their dredge site just to the north? So the court dredges out the channel every other year. They put their sand just to the north of Wildcat Park in there. And the court has responded back that no, that is for the river channel dredging only, not for any sites or
Isn't there a sand pit down there that we can dump it at?
so. I think we can find I think there's several locations within
Can we dump that around the
5
outside?
miles of that site. Get rid of that.
Can we use it at the camp down here on the outside and somehow dump it in there?
Yeah, it's dirty.
Not if it's going into wetland areas without any pretty major permitting and approval process to
Muddy.
fill in the wetland areas. I'm sure that would be rejected.
So you think we could use ARPA money for this?
That decision is yours. Is it a government service that we would typically provide? Would we maintain Wildcat Park? You know, to me, it seems like something that we would do. Right.
and it's lost revenue.
Right. Mhm.
So
I don't know.
would Brennan want to touch this at all to help us with floating barge
I
back?
can ask that question. Do I think we can get them in there to do it for
A little job like that, they probably say nah.
$10,000 or under 5,000? You know, probably not. Would they be willing to do it? Sure, I'm sure there's plenty of companies that would be willing to do it, but is
Is
it
there
gonna be
any,
more
if any
cost
other news
effective?
Wildcat?
I can definitely bring that question up.
Worth a shot.
I think we need to get more information, you know, because it's, I saw this yesterday over the weekend actually, and I was just thinking, well, yeah, it would be nice to clean it up, but I looked at the peninsula that you'd be going out onto with this heavy machine, so you need to have special pads to keep the thing from whatever. And that peninsula ain't that big, is it?
Not real big.
Yes.
You know, I've also talked to the supervisor about, you know, do we potentially reach out there, pull some material back and kind of work our way
Out.
where you could actually maybe pull some dredge material into the actual ramp itself, you base off of that and kind of work your way back out. There's multiple ways of doing it, but I think overall it's not a real simple job, but it's not super difficult.
Why don't you check on it? And we'll have a committee meeting.
Sounds like a plan. Even just reaching out to Brendan and saying, hey, you know, you have something in the area, give us a ballpark figure so we have something to work with. The long stick idea is a good idea, but I
But
just.
if we
look
could
at-
get them to do it, you know,
Yeah,
be a good deal.
but the price is gonna kill us.
Well, it all depends on what they charge.
I just think that peninsula is just awful soft. So we haven't walked up to it. Except last year when we looked at
And
it.
this is mostly rock.
And then
We made that peninsula, there's a lot of rock.
Okay.
We'll have to pull out the outriggers.
guess that was. That's if it's rock, that's better than sand.
If there's rock in there, but I've seen some of these things with dirty side up and they ain't pretty.
So Wildcat's officially open now then?
Who's the water up?
Yep.
It was 10.5 foot yesterday morning. I haven't looked to see where it's at.
Yeah, where did all this come from?
North.
Yeah, they had,
They had some,
3 feet of snow that's melting.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, from,
Mhm.
yeah.
they're getting some of that yet, plus those storms we had upriver here. And they've had a couple of storms we didn't get.
I mean, it was so low and then all of a sudden, the other day when I went to the French Island, all the islands are underwater.
The campground in La Crosse is closed, or it pulled the campers out of some of their areas.
Pettibone there?
Pettibone is because it's gotten too high. Some of them are out. Okay.
Rivers for water.
Do you have anything else, Drew? All right, move on to the board updates. We had a department head meeting yesterday afternoon, went pretty good, no problems as far as we can tell right now. We had a finance meeting this morning, I'll let Dewey talk on that. Okay, so I guess, I don't know about you. About the Mazzabota commission reports. Would you like to say?
I only had 2 meetings last week.
That's, you'll be able to draw for
I
only 2 meetings.
know. EMS, Southeast Minnesota EMS, we met the new executive director for the EMS RB, which was badly needed. We had major problems getting funding. The one we had before worked with the regions across the state, just no answers, nothing, So this guy came to our meeting, Zoom wise, and is gung ho. He was in charge of EMS out in Pennsylvania, but his family's from Minnesota, so he moved back with this new position. He was very good to work with. He's gung ho about helping get funding, because there's funding available, but no one would put in the grants and do the work to get it for us. So that was a real positive action with them. And then I had workforce development, we have a new director right now. She's not new, she's filling in, Wanda Jensen. I think the HR here works, or not HR, HS works with Wanda quite a bit with the Workforce Development Board and SNAP and all the programs there. So she's been there a long time and she's filling in just fine. There again, they're looking for state money, waiting for the final legislative actions on workforce, but it sounded positive at this point. So those were my 2 main meetings.
Last week I went to another community economic development strategy meeting with regard to putting together the program of the presentation for the feds in order to get federal money for emergency projects in the area. And that was interesting, met a lot of people. And other than that, yesterday was the AMC Zoom legislative meeting, which was kind of a disappointment from the perspective that the legislature went out of session without, they got a few things passed that came through, but the vast majority, I mean, they don't have a spending agreement. They didn't do anything on bonding. They didn't do anything on transportation. Health and Human Services got a little bit passed through that, but they haven't even decided if they're going to have a special session or not. I believe they will, but they did. I know they're elected to go up and do their work, but they didn't get it done. So it's kind of a party thing. The Republicans want this, the Democrats want that, and it goes back and forth.
Instead of working together.
And then it's the last minute thing, and so they don't have time to finish, so. So that was a disappointment to listen to that. Went with Brian to the Caledonia City Council meeting last night and got the approval to approach upon the city street, West Washington Street, for the 5-foot wide sidewalk extension.
The right away.
For the right, to work in there right away. And then they approved the parking lot layout as presented. Some discussion as far as utilities, if there's light poles that have to be moved or anything like that. And, you know, if our project is going to disturb a light pole, we'll have to replace it, but it's part of the project. They're going to decide if they want to repave the street at the same time that we do our project. But it's like Brian told them last night, at this point in time, with utility work and whatnot, it's likely going to be a 2023 project before we get to it because of the putting together the project and the bids and whatnot. It'll be a 2023. City of Caledonia is going to be doing a project, 4 or 5 block project right in that area next year. So we could maybe bid it at the same time frame so that we can take advantage of whoever's doing theirs can help. So there are some advantages in that regard. Otherwise, they didn't really have a problem, I didn't think, with what we were requesting to do, just understanding layout and whatnot. It would have been nice if they'd have scheduled us before their engineer. We didn't have to sit for an hour and a half while he explained the project. So we're good to go on that. One last thing to report. The Selco contract negotiation probably will not take place until June or July. I've contacted them a couple of times to get dates as to when that's going to fit, but apparently they can't decide on that.
Oh, really?
So
Must not need the money.
it'll be June or July before.
I thought they wanted it done by June.
That's what I got.
Yeah,
the
that's what
impression.
we thought too.
It'll be June or July. That's all I got.
I didn't really have anything to report. I did have a personnel meeting, committee meeting last week, but don't have any.
Well, not much going on the north front there. The finance committee this morning, a couple of things about Carol informed John of the possibility of being over budget a little bit because of the contracts and stuff like that, but and the highway building is coming down, and Sheila was talking about some of the expenses there, but nothing major in the meeting that I got. So, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of months as far as getting close to those 50% or 60s or more so. And there was one area that was quite a bit over, but that was explained. So that's about it. City council meeting last night, I didn't go attend because there's only 2 items on the agenda. It was the lightest agenda I've ever seen out of that committee group, so.
I was wondering if you got something, Bobby?
I just was going to mention that today is election day, and who else is going to be on the campus board tomorrow? Okay. Sure. All right. Yep.
With what Dewey just said about the budgets and stuff, where we're at, what are you guys' thoughts on, like, for department heads, if they have a change of banding for somebody in the department to give them a so-called higher band or whatever it is? Now that's going to affect the budget for the year. And we just settled contracts with the unions and everybody was placed in the grid. And now we're starting to see changes coming about here. Are we, in my thoughts is we should probably just you know, let's settle in here for the first year, and if there's something that needs to be changed, we could do it for the next budget year, because I got a feeling we're gonna be over budget already with, after settling all the contracts. It wasn't in quite all there, but
Carol, when you looked at, the budget and what the contract ultimately did, we aren't really too bad off, right?
The total was,
wasn't it like 25,000 over or something?
That was a little higher.
Was it?
Some of the retirements and some of the people that have
Right.
left.
You know, if we start looking at banding, how does that affect the contracts with the unions? So we start changing the banding.
It doesn't fit the union contracts. It just affects the budget for the department.
Okay.
I mean, the overall is a $22,590 increase. 35,000 of that is in highway, 83,000 is in services. 96,000 is actually a reduction in general revenue because we also did not budget for positions that hadn't been filled and hadn't been for the entire 2021. So I think, you know, probably more to the point is, I mean, how are jobs, how are duties being assigned that creates an increase in the banding when they were hired to do this, and how was it done before? I mean, certainly as a department head, I would also like to, you know, add responsibilities, but to my employee's job description. But when they were hired to do that, don't I need approval from you to have something that would increase their pay?
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at.
You know,
Yes.
I guess that's probably the part that confuses me.
It should be brought to the board's attention through, you know, through the personnel and eventually to the whole board.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of department heads that would say, oh, well, I want, you know, this person to do more of this and more of this, and then it increases their banding, and then, you know, where are we at?
Yeah.
So,
There has to be justification for the change. The justification's got to come through the committee and the board.
that would be my assumption.
Yeah.
Mhm. I can agree with Eric too on this,
Well, I just wanted to get to your thoughts on that, because,
especially this year, the budget.
well, we got to be conscious of it
Yes.
because of the assessed values have gone up, and if we all of a sudden we're in a pickle and we need to raise it
Mhm.
6-8% levy or something, and we're going to be
Shot. You weren't gonna be happy.
no.
They're never happy anyways about taxes. I do find something interesting. This is off the point. We agree with what you're saying.
Mhm.
But I do find it interesting when you look at properties that are for sale. And if you go on Beacon and look at how we can, you know, the 20% increases or more.
Still not keeping up.
Everybody's property that's up for sale, they look at this and they go 20 to 25% higher than what the newly adjusted estimated market value is. So there's gonna be another jump next year if
Well,
things
there
don't
isn't
settle
I
something
think,
comes up.
but I think things are kind of slowing down and ratcheting because the interest rates going up a little bit. And
Things are slowing down in construction, but existing homes that are selling are still 20%
well, that's
higher.
because construction costs are so high that, you know, it's cheaper
It's
to
a
buy.
supply and demand thing that people wanna, whatever, and the construction takes longer. If I'm here moving in and I want to move into a house in the next 30 days, I'm gonna buy existing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wait months for something to be built.
Mhm.
So,
You
and there's
gotta wait
a
longer for
supply and
materials. Windows take a long time to get. Appliances are a year.
I think we found that out about garage doors.
Yep.
We'll just find out about the sewer plant, they're getting no pipes either.
Is that?
It could be a long thing. We're not out of it, that's for sure. Good morning, America said today, it's just started.
Well, as Brian's here, is there any more thoughts? What are you guys' thoughts about an open house for the shop, the new shop, highway shop?
Yeah, we're,
I mean, we don't want to demand to tell you when we're gonna do what we're gonna, we want to have your input because it's your building that you don't, you know.
yeah, schedule wise, had a meeting yesterday with the contractor and subcontractor. That's out there working right now, and they're saying that they're holding to the schedule, that it should be completely done by the end of June. That's, paving on the entire site, fencing, topsoil, seed, mulch, everything done by the end of June.
Probably
It might be a little bit optimistic to actually make that happen. But in there, that's what the time that they're looking at is maybe gets into July a little bit, but I would say, get to that middle of July and beyond, we, should be done with the project and, just us operating the building. So as far as time for open house, I guess whatever, you guys decide that works best for the public, we can make it work. It's easiest if it's, Monday through Friday for.
Right, so you guys can be there.
But,
Yes.
if it's, after hours or a weekend, we'll do the best to find staff that can be there. We definitely need to have staff to make sure that, things are safe and secure during that time, and people around, I'll answer questions if people have questions.
I think it's a good idea to have it during the week when staff is available. And the end of July would be nice. I don't think we should do it at fair time, or we'll have everybody from every county around going through our building.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I just think it would be convenient and, people come to the fair, hey, I'm gonna swing over and check out the shop. But if you don't want.
Might be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Trouble with the fair is it starts early and it runs late.
Well, we won't have to have it all day, but just
Certain hours.
certain hours of the day or of one day, a
When they did
Thursday.
the school in La Crescent, it was 3 to 5,
That was on a Sunday too.
Sunday.
Like,
And they didn't have the teachers and staff around.
and I was thinking on a Thursday of the fair,
Yes.
but I don't know, we don't have to do that.
Get the biggest bang for the buck as far as most people get to see it.
Right, people come into the fair and want to swing over and look at it. Thursday.
Check with your staff.
Yeah. What, have you ever mentioned that at all with them, or?
Most of the staff would say open house, what they say is, I'm gonna be gone that day. And my response back is, no, we didn't have people here.
Yeah, but you pick a
don't
day.
deny vacation a whole lot, but there's times when.
Yeah, you have to be there.
No, we
That's a
should
great
try to be there too,
Oh,
yeah. So we can take the brunt of stuff.
It's very nice. It's very,
When you gonna have your ribbon cutting?
Greg's got to practice up cotton.
No, it's all of us.
You got a little time to decide that. But
Yeah.
Well, talking
I agree
over,
with you as far as fair time.
If you want a lot of people to see it, that'd be the time.
We want a lot of people to see it.
Why not?
No, I agree
They're
there.
paying
I'm
for
just
it,
thinking
they might as well
we get
get
a
a
lot
chance
of
to see it.
outside people, is what I thought, overwhelming.
not really, it's mostly Houston County people coming on like on a Thursday, I mean.
Well, you got all the county judges, all the big judges. and
Well,
everything.
that's- yeah.
So there'd be a lot of people.
But they're county people.
Yeah. that's the-
Yeah.
4-H groups.
If we can be there, we can each have a room that we can say, this is this is that.
Well,
Think about it.
we'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, and once we get beyond we started talking about, scheduling stuff. A lot of our construction projects are going on right now. These next 6 weeks are tougher for my staff. A lot of projects get to, that, middle of July and beyond. That does help free up staff time off some of the job sites, so. And fair time, we can definitely make whatever the board chooses work, so.
Your opinion counts for a lot too. So.
I mean, it definitely makes it a lot easier to tell staff, you're here during, your normal work day, or you're gonna, stick around an extra hour or two late on a weekday. That causes less impact than, coming on a Saturday or Sunday and you're.
We don't want to do it on,
overtime,
we don't want to do it on a
flexible
weekend.
scheduling, so, Thursday affair is a lot less busy than Friday.
Yeah, I think Thursday'd be the day I was thinking.
Friday gets so hectic, people coming and going just for the fair. I am envisioning that, during fair time, we're gonna have all of our, staff, everyone kind of parking using the back side, might be coming in and out the back gate. So, just even people want to go to the fair, some of them will be parking in our front. It might be easier for someone coming just to the open house to get there on Thursday again over Friday, so.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, we have any public comment?
Yeah, hi all, this is Heidi speaking on behalf of Donna here. She just wanted me to remind everybody of the election today.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yep.
Okay. So we want to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Well, I'll second.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done. Thank you all.